Howdy again, everybody. This is Doc coming to you with another fun educational segment here at ThoroughFan. And last week, we kind of went over a lot of stuff that's involved in post-race testing and the samples that are taken and how they go about identifying the drugs. And we talked a little bit, too, as to why it is so difficult for, the testers to kind of stay one step ahead of the chemist, and usually it's the other way around. And so there's been a lot of talk in recent years about switching the testing and the identification and catching of cheaters basically to something that is known as equine biopassports, or biopassports in general. And these are different in the fact that they don't exactly look for the drug itself, but they look for the effect. What exactly do I mean? Well, make sure all of your papers are in order as we go about discussing equine biopassports. So, of course, everybody is familiar with the common passport, and they actually do have what we call equine passports now, where, all of the horse's information, its coloring, its markings, its chestnut makeouts, all of that stuff, is involved, sort of like, jockey club papers, but a little bit more in-depth, and this has all the information for the horse to be able to travel from state to state or country to country. Contains a lot of very valuable information on the horse, and those have been out there forever, just like you or I, when it comes to passports. Obviously, it contains all of our vital information so that we can prove basically who's presenting the information to the customs official or the security person. We are who this says we are. So while passports, basically look for things that are on the outside and descriptive things about us or horses, biopassports are a little different in the fact that they actually look what's on the inside. And what they look at is basically what makes you you, but from a biochemical and from a red cell and white cell count, from a blood parameter standpoint. And this is something that they have looked at for a long time in the human endurance athletic realm and have actually worked out really, really good protocols for determining when blood doping is happening without having to actually find the chemical being used. And this is the big thing with it, is that with a lot of these substances, as we talked about last week, they don't have to, be present to still have an effect. They don't have to be a drug that they can actually get a test for to have an effect. And so instead of looking for the drug itself, which is always going to put the testers at a disadvantage because the cheaters are always going to be one step ahead, instead of looking for the chemical itself, what they look for is the effect of the chemical on the body. And that can be lasting a lot longer than the drug itself in the system. So that's where the concept of these biopassports come in. And so what they do is they look at what can be considered the normal reference range. Ideally, when this really takes off and gets off the ground, it's what's ideal for that in particular horse. And that's what they've done on the human side. They've actually taken enough samples now from individual athletes to say this is your profile and what is normal for you. And then what they do is maybe what they're looking at is 3 or 4 days prior to competition, or maybe even out of competition, they go ahead and take a blood sample and they look for certain parameters in certain areas. And the big areas they're focusing on obviously are blood doping, steroid use, maybe some hormone use, and shockwave therapy. And what we're going to do here at ThoroughFan is we're going to break all 4 of those down in individual segments to talk about exactly, why they are obviously performance enhancing and why it's more important to try to test for the evidence of them being given in the makeup of the horse and the chemical profiles that come out of the horse, rather than constantly trying to find the drug itself or the machine itself in the case of shockwave. So what we are now leaning towards is saying, okay, we've taken blood from your horse and the red cell count is way higher than it should be, or we're seeing a steroid ratio that shouldn't be the way it is based on the normal parameters or the reference ranges for those values. And so you can turn around to the trainer and the owner and say something isn't kosher here, something isn't right, and out of abundance of caution and concern for your horse, we are going to have to scratch them from that race until we figure out what's going on. And it's very interesting to look at it from that perspective, because it's going to take years and years and a ton of money, and I do mean a ton of money, to really get this research ramped up enough and into enough of a data bank that we can try to make a lot of these values scientifically validated, so that they would be able to stand up to a court challenge or to a scientific challenge. That's still many years away. However, if you look at it from the way that a very astute veterinarian, Dr. Nash, who has been involved in this for a long time and has worked in various organizations, and the way that he kind of went about trying to put this in a perspective that everybody can get behind, it's really combining both trying to find the cheaters, but also looking out for the welfare of the horse. So if you find, evidence of a very high red cell count, let's say, or steroid ratios that are out of whack, or some other parameter that is out of balance, you don't necessarily have to say that that horse was doped or cheating was taking place. What you're saying is, we are concerned for the welfare of your horse. This is way out of scope for where it should be, and we are not going to let your horse run. We're going to have to scratch the horse on the grounds that we want to make sure the horse is okay. So you're looking out for the horse's well-being, but you're also putting a very, very strong deterrent out there for people to try to cheat with these drugs where they're saying, well, we can't find evidence of the drug. Well, if the evidence is found more in the way that the animal responds to it on a biochemical and blood level area, hey, it doesn't serve any purpose for doing it, because even if you do dope them, you're not going to be allowed to run them because these parameters are out of whack. So again, this is something that is probably a good 5 to 10 years away. They've been doing a lot of research and a lot of really good research on it to try to start to get something standardized, but we are really trying to look out for, obviously, first and foremost, the welfare of the horse, the safety of the horse and the jockey. We are trying to look out for, obviously, the integrity of the sport and integrity for the handicappers to come back and bet the sport with confidence, as well as just the overall image of the sport. They have used these biopassports to really crack down on the doping that's going on in the cycling world and the endurance running world on the human side. All of these things are really, really important, and we're going to eventually get there on the equine side. Just going to take a little bit of time and a whole bunch of money to make it happen. That's kind of what we mean on a broad overview level of biopassports. And as I said, here at Therofan, we are going to break this down in weekly segments, looking at each of the main areas that they're probably trying to teeter on as far as getting to these values to start working with biopassports, at least some couple of main areas on it. So I hope that kind of answered a little bit of the question as far as what biopassports are as compared to normal testing or even normal equine passports. And of course, we are going to continue to update everybody and break this out a little bit more, as I said, in the coming weeks, but wanted to give you a little taste for it. And actually, for those that want to think about it a little bit, the first one we're going to talk about next week is something that actually sort of is already being tested for in the way of an equine biopassport, and it has to do with a favorite drink of a lot of people, especially in the summer, but in the winter as well, and that right now you can only get through most drive-thrus. So you ponder that. If you have any questions, of course, about anything involving racing from a fan standpoint that you would like potentially answered on one of these segments, go ahead, drop us a line at info@therofan.com, info@therofan.com. We'll try to answer them for you, and hope, again, everybody is staying safe and happy and healthy during this COVID pandemic. We will get back to racing, hopefully sooner rather than later, and as always, if you have any questions, concerns, or just want a little bit more information about everything there is to offer in this great sport of thoroughbred racing for the fan, there's only one place to turn, and that is right here at Therofan.